podcast. My name is Pat Shank, and I'm the Region 1 student leader. Our topic today is Region 1 Conference Reflection and Taking Ideas to Action. We are happy to have two guests today to share with us their experience on conference attendance and how they are able to implement ideas to action. Our guests today are Ava Kwasniewski, Coordinator of Student, Staff, and Assessment from Drexel University, and Joma Watson, that one's a lot easier, Intramural and Club Sports Coordinator from Delaware State University. So welcome, Ava and Joma. Ava, do you want to start us off with just a little intro of yourself here?
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, Pat. So my name is Ava Kwasniewski. You definitely got really close with my last name. I know it's a difficult one. So I got my start in collegiate recreation as a freshman at Florida Atlantic University. And from there, I served in a graduate assistantship at Ohio State, student development and leadership, as well as facilities. And that brings me to where I am now at Drexel University, about 4 months in the position of coordinator of student, staff, and assessment. So I work with our student development initiative, student recognition, and also assessment for our department.
Awesome. Glad to have you. Joma, do you want to jump in here with a little introduction of yourself?
No problem. How you doing? My name is Joma Watson once again. I'm the Intramural Sport Club Coordinator here at Delaware State University. Been here working professionally about 5-6 years. I started off as an undergraduate. I was a supervisor in the building, also worked with intramurals. Then I moved to a graduate assistant position with facilities, got a lot of experience in that. So I'm like a perfect product of Del State. You know, I've been here for a long time. Also had an opportunity to go to other universities, but for some reason I ended up staying at Del State, you know. But currently I also work with, we have a conference and events office. So we do a lot of events off campus and on campus with other vendors and stuff also, by the way.
Awesome. Well, glad to have you as well. And a little delay here getting started, so let's jump into the discussion. So just open question to either of you. What would you say is the best way to document presentations at conferences so that you can reference the information when you get back to campus? So any types of notes, getting slides from presenters, anything like that. What's your best advice to students?
Okay, I'll start. What I like to do is I like to take a lot of notes, even if it's from my iPad or just writing it down, because of course we all get busy sometimes. So, you know, I forget stuff a lot. So I just figure it's easier to just take it down and keep it in my notes. So even when I'm walking, I can just glance through and look at some things. Hey, this is something that another university uses that we don't use. So maybe I should try to implement this or talk to my boss or my director about it. And it just works out. It works out very easy like that.
Ava, what about you?
Yeah, I think very similar to Joma. I'm a notes person for sure, and I think it's very important to know like how you best like to take notes and use your notes. So I know that I have a notebook that I enjoy using, and I know that that's something that I'm going to go back to after the conference. I also like to, before even attending a conference, really look through the guidebook app or whatever guide that the conference is using to kind of plan ahead of time some things that I might anticipate going to. And then from there, just kind of plot those things out. Like, what are some things that I'm familiar with that I want to expand upon more? What are some things that I want to challenge myself to learn that might not directly apply to my area, but that I could really benefit from? And then just taking notes and making sure that I put those in a place where I can go back to those and they're easy to read. Sometimes in conferences, we can scribble things down rather quickly. So making sure that you keep track and maybe bullet or do what you have to do to make sure that it's something that you're going to want to look at later and really remember and reflect on.
Yeah, definitely both good pieces of advice there with the guidebook. That's something that I think a lot of people do now. They look through and schedule out their days and what they really want to go to. But great tip with the notes. I know there's a lot of times I've gone to something, whether it's even just class or anything, and I don't take notes and I want to think of that issue later, that topic, and I just can't remember what the person said. So notes are definitely an easy way to get back to that. All right. So how should you approach the professional staff or director on campus about installing a new project or idea that maybe you got from the conference?
I can start us off with this one.
Go first.
We'll alternate. So I think the best way to approach, and I'm learning this a lot as a new professional in my role about 4 or so months, is to really have a good background and idea of not only the presentation you went to, but what other information might be pertinent to your institution or to your department specifically. Because I think that when I go to someone with an idea, they're going to want to know, okay, you have this idea, maybe it's to help solve a problem or to implement something further at our rec center. what are some of the solutions that you have for me already? So if I bring it to my director, he's going to want to know, okay, Ava, like you've identified this is something that we can really build upon. Now, what are some of your solutions? What are some ways to execute it? Also, like knowing who the professional staff members that you consider to be your mentors, and picking their brains beforehand, kind of seeing where they're thinking that this idea could fit in at your institution, and then that way you have more of that complete picture when you present the idea, and it's being presented at a good time and well thought out.
Awesome. Joma, any thoughts on that?
Definitely, to piggyback on what she just said, you have to know, the professional staff member that you're trying to reach the idea out to. Also, make sure you have a clear written plan. If you're going to go and suggest something, I'm pretty sure you need to have a clear plan from start to finish, what you plan on doing, and also measure the pros and cons. How can it benefit your department or your component area, and look at the things that could happen that won't be so beneficial to your component area.
Yeah, definitely. And Joma, kind of spinning right off of that, what do you think is like the appropriate time to go to a professional staff member to come to them with this idea? Like, should you do it right when you get back, or maybe wait a couple of days, a week or two to go to them with this idea?
Sometimes what I try to do actually is I wait a few days. I still refer back to my notes and just go over what I have and just go online. Like, I like to go online a lot and look at the other universities' recreational pages and stuff like that, and just compare and contrast, to how many programs they have to offer and what are the different programs. And because a lot of universities also fall under athletics, we fall under student affairs, so it makes it a little bit different. That's what I like to do.
Definitely. Ava, do you agree with that?
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think that especially if you just look at the logistics of coming back from a conference, everyone's head is in a different place and your professional staff might not be ready right away. But that's why I had kind of recommended before, like if you're really excited about it and you want to tell your mentor immediately, talk to them about it. I think what Joma said about creating that plan kind of from start to finish and how that would look is a really, really good point. And I think that just approaching them and being mindful of the department that you're in. So Drexel is in athletics. So we have to think about that bigger picture of how does recreational athletics connect to the whole institution versus how this would look from a student affairs perspective.
Yeah, definitely a lot of things to consider. And I know sometimes if I'm excited about an idea, I'll just go to them right away and say, hey, could I look into this more? But you can also look into it in the first place, really set it out, and then go to them with it. So Ava, if you're given the green light, what other resources are available to you to help with implementing something new like this?
Yeah, for sure. I think always checking out, like Joa mentioned, other institutions around you, maybe reaching out to the presenter that maybe gave you the idea in the first place, and telling them a little about your institution, maybe setting up an informational interview, which is something that I like to do and I learned in graduate school. If you're curious about something that someone's done, whether it be a profession or an idea they've implemented, calling them to find out more about it and maybe seeing how could this translate into your institution. I think from there, other resources, Nirsa community discussions. So if you're a Nirsa member, those posts that you get, reading through them and maybe thinking about making a post, asking for ideas or further help, or even just checking out online some more research, journal articles, Inside Higher Ed, seeing if any topics pertain to the information that you're looking for. I think that that's a really good way to get like a complete picture.
Joma, you agree with that, or you have any other ways that you want to add?
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah, so I know that's something I do a lot. When I'm looking at something, first thing I do is I go to Nirsa communities and see if anyone's done it before, if they have something that they want to post on there. Just the other day, I was looking into some powerlifting mats, and I go on there and shout out to Heather Foster over in Region 5. She had this whole entire Excel sheet already done, so she pretty much did the work for me. I sent her a message, said thanks, so it can definitely be helpful. All right, so Joma, what are some examples of implemented ideas that you have done, and how has it improved your facilities, programs, services, or staffing?
One will be equipment checkout process. So we're fairly getting off the ground as a official recreation department. We had a gym, of course, but we're building like a bigger brand here. So we're getting more employees, and we also took on the ownership of conference and events also. So the equipment checkout process is a huge thing for us here because we have a lot of demand to use our equipment, and a lot of people like to use our equipment outside of the facilities. So that was major. We noticed that we was losing a lot of equipment, and we just didn't have no tracks and balances for it. So that helped us is like a huge difference. Now, also the facility request process. Actually, we have a lot of major groups that would like to use the fitness rooms and dance rooms, the swimming pool, the basketball courts, even outdoor basketball courts and the volleyball courts. So we figure we have a checkout process to use the course. We have a document that we have, me and the director, we created, and they fill it out. I just briefly go through, see the amount of people, what's needed. Do they need audio? Do they need tables and chairs? And I have a quick turnover with that because I don't like to get backed up. So I usually, right when I get it, I go right through it. It takes me about 5 minutes and I add them in the system, easy facility, and they be right in the system. So that works out perfectly fine. And just an employee point system, which is not always a great thing, but we also have to have checks and balances for our staff to let them know that we mean business sometimes. So, you know, they don't get lazy and they just do their job.
That's awesome, all of that. Yeah, we have a point system too that we actually got from Nirsa a few years ago over at Westchester, and it works out well for us too. So Ava, what are some examples of implement ideas that you have done? I know you're still new to Drexel, but maybe at other universities you've been at.
Yeah, for sure. We at Ohio State, I worked in 2 of our satellite facilities, just centers, during my first year as a GA. And we had been training our students, certifying them in CPR, AED, and first aid, but we didn't actually have a system for checking those skills and really making sure that they were something that our students were being reinforced and reminded about. So my first summer, we went to an ORSA summer outreach, and we had 2 or 3 presentations there, and one of them was shout out to Kent State University about their emergency CPR, AED, first aid checks. And I actually took that idea, I reached out to that presenter, I got kind of the packet that they use to do those checks, and we implemented a very similar version at the Jesse Owens Centers with our 50 combined student employees. And we adapted it for our uses. You know, we didn't have lifeguards or anything like that, so we made sure to get some feedback from our departmental safety as well on what changes we should make to accommodate our students and their needs. And that system is still in place today, to my knowledge, and it's continuing to evolve and grow. Our students actually oversee that process too. So their building managers are overseeing like the CPR checks and keeping track of everyone's certifications. And it actually led to one of our students being able to save a life in our facilities about a year ago. So we're very proud of that, and that just shows like a great idea where you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You can take something that someone has created that's so wonderful and just modify it for your facilities. It can be really beneficial.
Yeah, that's awesome. So that obviously, you know, when you get something done, great feeling, something you can look back on. But Ava, have you ever had a time when an idea was denied? And did you kind of resubmit it for later consideration or get feedback on why it was denied?
Yeah, for sure. I think that's definitely something that happens. And it's an important part of growth because you realize that the reasons why your ideas might not be accepted right away could be bigger or larger picture and maybe something that you don't understand, especially as a student employee. So also in that same first year of being a facilities GA, we had been trying to strategize ways to check in with our customer service, and I have been doing research on different secret shopper programs, so to speak. Different recreation centers do those, and I put together a whole proposal. I was so excited about it. I showed it to my supervisor. She was really excited about it, but the timing just was not right in our department. So I know that they saved it and held on to it, and there was some follow-up along the way, but I think that that was a really important lesson for me because it helped me understand that you might have a really good idea that seems very relevant to the area that you're working in, but if you reframe that within the bigger picture, there might be other things that need to be prioritized at that time. So it doesn't mean that your idea was bad and it'll never come to fruition. But I think what you should take away from that is that you had the opportunity to develop and think through something new, and maybe in the future just kind of save that in your Dropbox or whatever secret rec stuff file you have and tuck it away, and you can use it again in the future.
Yeah, definitely. Joma, do you have any examples of this as well?
Yeah, I mean, working at a smaller institution, we definitely get shut down a lot just due to funding, lacks of funding at times. And especially like one example is just like my wrestling club. So I have a large interest in wrestling club. I've sat down plenty of times with these students, you know, and they came with proposals and documents on how we can get this thing started. And I'm a huge supporter of them. So I reached out to a lot of people on campus to see how I can get this done. Even dealing with funding, like we have them reached out to different people for sponsorships and everything that they can help with funding. But it's just that some things that the university have in policies like risk management, it's just I can't oversee them or I can't overdo them. So it's just I have to wait and just keep on trying to come up with a better policy.
Yeah. So definitely two great examples there of not being discouraged by ideas not coming to fruition, but kind of saving them. And maybe it's just not the right time, or maybe you just don't have the resources, but definitely spinning that in a positive light. All right. So switching gears here, Joe, I'm going to go to you.
Okay.
So when you're at a conference, you meet a lot of people there. A lot of people you've maybe seen before, but if it's your first conference, you're really getting that first light of meeting, a large amount of people who are in the same field as you. So how do you continue to strengthen connections you made at the conference with fellow Nirsa members?
Well, first, when you go to the conference, we're all in the same field. We might be in different component areas, but we're all in the same field. So we should feel comfortable. You should be confident about your craft, like what we do, I like to reach out to speak to different students, not only professional staff members. I like to see where students' minds are at, like what they're thinking. Hey, I know this might be your first conference, your second or your third, but hey, my name is Joma Watson. I work in sports and recreation just like you. Let's have an open conversation just to see where, what they're thinking and what they expect out of this conference. And I just give them examples of what I did at my first conference and how it was. But then by the time I came to my second conference, how I was more comfortable and what I did to be more comfortable just by speaking to people. Because some people will come up to you and speak to you, but some people, they're shy just like you. So why not reach out and just say, hey, how you doing? Introduce yourself, because you never know. That person could be a mentor or they could be a mentee,
Yeah, definitely. Ava, do you have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, and Joe made some really great points about just reaching out to people across all spectrums. I apologize. Reaching out to everyone across all different levels of, professional, student, graduate assistant. And I think for me, the way I love to connect, and I know I did this at the Region 1 conference, but taking on mentees. I know that I'm a professional now, but I am still very close to being in a graduate student role. My lights are also shutting off. Office is trying to sabotage me. So there are a lot of different ways to continue the connection and to remember that even though you're currently in that professional role, if you are, or a graduate student role, that there's always someone that you can help pay that experience forward to. There's always someone that you can develop. There are people of all different levels in terms of like what they prefer socially at conferences. I'm definitely more of an introverted person by nature, but at conferences I challenge myself to get all out there and to meet whoever I can, and to use that kind of like almost like I'm, comfortable being uncomfortable here, and to see who else I can engage and kind of bring out. And, I love to dance at the Nirsa conferences, like funny dance with everyone. That's a great way to maintain those connections, and to really make those connections with others, because when it comes down to it, you're all being authentic with each other and you're trying to build those relationships and establish that network. And the way that I feel the most comfortable doing that is just by being my authentic self with other people.
Yeah, definitely. So kind of related to that, Ava, what are some of the best ways to stay involved with Nirsa after the conference is over?
Yeah, for sure. That's a really great question, and that's something that I'm still exploring as a new professional. I know that in graduate school I felt kind of overwhelmed with my master's degree workload, and I wasn't really on any committees. But some of the ways that we stayed involved as graduate students were through our Student Professional Development Association at Ohio State. So we continued to offer other students opportunities to attend the conferences. We did professional development workshops that reflected Nirsa values. So all of that was really good, I think, especially in that student-to-student connection, to keep myself involved in Nirsa. And now as a new professional, I'm looking into the future. What committees can I join? How can I volunteer at future conferences? Thinking about all the time, what are some things that I'm learning and that I think I could share with others in terms of presentations and future things that I can contribute. I think that our field is so rich with all of the knowledge and different talented people that we have. And I think it's good to always, even if you're not a student anymore, think about, but what can I share from my experiences that will help others in my profession?
Yeah, absolutely. Joma, any thoughts?
Yeah, definitely to add on what Ava said, get involved in a lot of community service programs. That's like a major one that we always try to do, is just always, be involved in the community, because it's not only about your department, but it's about, the whole unit, about everything. Also go to smaller conferences at times. It might, like we just had the Region 1 conference, but we might actually have a smaller conference that might be among 3 other schools or something like that. Also, get to know your regional reps, get to know your student reps, get to know your, everybody that's just involved, that's been in Nirsa for over like 10, 15 years. You have a lot of people that have a lot of experience. Just get to know a lot of people. Just, it's easy just to send out an email, say, how you doing? See what's going on with that person, and it's just pick their mind. So that's a good way. And also reach out to your mentors, or maybe if you have a mentee. I like to reach out because I have a mentee I met from the national conference last year. I shoot emails here and there just to check on them, see how they're doing. Do they have any questions? They can always feel free to reach out to me.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of good tips, especially with the mentor and mentee. So if you're interested in the mentor and mentee program and you're watching this, feel free to sign up at Nirsa's website. It's a great way to make a lifelong connection with somebody else in the field. All right, so last question for both of you. Kind of gonna have to maybe dig deep into your memories here. So what are some things you did after your first Nirsa conference, or what are some things that you really remember that stood out for you? I'll start with you, Joma.
Okay. I remember my first conference, I believe it was Tampa. Was it 2011? Well, I was nervous, man. I was nervous, because I was a former athlete, so I never got the chance to actually go to the national conferences because it was always during training. So finally, here comes my senior year. I don't know if I want to go to grad school yet or what's going on, but I go to this conference. So it's a huge conference with a lot of people that's doing the same thing that I'm doing. I'm kind of shy a little bit. At the same time, I just don't know how to approach people, or just don't know what to talk about. But I actually met someone who was just seeing me in the corner, just like reading my my guidebook and stuff. It was like, hey, how you doing? So like once that person broke the ice there, it just made things a lot easier. I was like, okay, you can just walk up to people and just say, how you doing? And talk about recreational and sports and stuff like that. So it made things a lot easier. I had found a mentor, somebody I spoke to frequently. About every week, we used to shoot each other emails, and he was checking on me just to make sure things was going smooth and asking me, do I have any questions and stuff, and let me know what's the difference, like what happens at his university compared to what happens at my university. And I seen a lot of similar things, and I was like, oh, well, this person been in the field for about 15, 20 years longer than me, but at the same time, they're not treating me no different. They're just actually trying to help me grow as a student and also grow as a professional. Another way was I also reached out to my director and was like, hey, I seen some students presenting with their directors. Is there any chance that at the next conference we can try to present? And that was pretty cool. Like I felt, just being in the front, helping my director present, I thought that was a great thing.
Yeah, definitely. And I can relate to definitely being shy at your first conference and stuff, but that's a great thing about them. It's not weird to go up and just say hello to someone and ask where they're from and everything. If you do that to some random guy in the street in Philadelphia, they're going to be like, what do you want? Do you need money for the subway or something? But it's a great part of the culture with Nirsa. But Ava, do you have any thoughts on that?
Wow, Pat, as someone who just moved to Philadelphia, that's too real right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, similar to Gemma, I did not know what to expect at my first Nirsa. It was 2013 in Las Vegas, which I know was a very memorable year just because of how our conference was structured and everything was kind of all over the place. We had a joint partnership with ACPA, and I went to that conference without really even knowing what Nirsa was, just that I loved working in campus rec. My mentor, Joanna, said, go to Nirsa, you will find, you'll go to the COC and you'll find a GA there. And so that is what I did. I kind of camped out in the COC. I spent a lot of time running around and, wearing shoes that I had just gotten that were bad for me and all that, awkward stuff that happens to you as a first-time conference attendee. But the one thing that really struck me was the experiences I had interviewing with other professionals and just seeing how much everyone really loved Nirsa and loved this profession. It made me so much more comfortable after that. And then, of course, when I met Ohio State and I started to get acquainted with them and what their GA positions looked like, I had a really good feeling that I was about to find my home. And so after my first Nirsa, some of my thoughts were just reflecting and waiting for that call, which I eventually got. And I think that it can be really overwhelming, but spending that time and taking that time to reflect and think about, like, what did I learn about myself? What can I do differently? For me, it was, how do I help others in the future? How do I see other people that are panicking and like low-key running around freaking out? And how do I comfort them and assure them that they're going to find their path in this profession? It's going to be okay, and they've got people here to support them.
Yeah, definitely. So conferences, just a great way to get your name out there, make connections, and just some best practices to stay up to date on Nirsa information after the conference. As we said before, Nirsa communities, you can hop on there if you need to find any information. There's a lot of good posts or former discussions between members, and you can find information on there, so you don't really have to reinvent the wheel. There's also Nirsa Know. So that sends out a lot of information that goes out a couple of times a year. The new regional web pages, you can head on there. For us, Region 1, a lot of good information on there. We have a lot of good content. So you can hop on there, find some information about the upcoming annual conference or scholarships, anything of that nature. And then kind of spinning off of that, our monthly newsletter. So our next one will be coming out mid-November. Look out for that. We'll have information on, again, scholarships and annual conference registration and things like that. So I just want to thank you so much for your time, Ava and Joma. Thanks for coming on and taking this time out of your day. Really appreciate it. Just a friendly reminder that registration has now opened for the annual conference, which will be held February 21st to the 24th. Don't miss out on the early bird registration and booking of the host hotel at the Gaylord National Harbor in Maryland. We will be hosting our next Region 1 broadcast on Friday, January 13th at 11 a.m. You can look at our past ones on our YouTube page, and this link can be shared after we're done recording live here, and it can be rewatched, so you can share it with other members here in Region 1. The topic that we'll be focusing on Friday, January 13th, will be applying, interviewing, and acquiring graduate assistantships and full-time jobs, since a lot of you students will be looking for that at that time. So please make sure to be aware of the November 15th deadline to nominate individuals for the Regional Award of Merit, the Horace Moody Award, the William Wasson Student Leadership and Academic Awards, and additionally, the Region 1 Contingency Scholarship Awards for $500 are also available to 6 students and 2 professionals that can be used to fund the annual conference. So thank you to Kevin George for being our producer today and helping us out with our technical difficulties that we had earlier. And again, thank you, Joma and Ava, for coming on.
No problem.
Thanks, Pat. Thanks, Kevin.
Thanks, Kevin.
All right, thanks, guys.